Hi, Pre-AP Computer Science students. Last week you have your brief introduction to Scratch through completing a series of tutorials. This week we're going to start working on some actual daily computer labs where you do your coding of your projects. But first we have a couple things to talk about for this week. So in your Canvas you're going to notice that under week 2, that's this week, you're going to have a concepts handout. And the way you do is you take a look at this, and I'm telling you that this is a vocabulary assignment, so you're going to need to start taking some notes on this. And you can do this at your speed, and you have a couple days to get this done. You're going to read and take notes from this PDF to get some new terminology, definitions, and code samples. And so what you do is you look at the basic fundamentals link here, and if you click on the little icon here, you probably have seen this in other courses, you can preview the document. And within this document, it's a lot of information about Scratch. And although this is an older version of Scratch actually in these pictures, the concepts, this column and the explanation, never change. And code is very similar to what you're going to see in Scratch. So the idea of sequencing and putting your code blocks in the right order, iteration or looping, is extremely important in all programming languages. Conditionals, testing, if this is true, or if this is true, else that is, do that. Variables are used to hold data. We have lists and arrays, and you'll learn a lot about that in Java, more so than in Scratch, but we'll do some list work. Event handling, when something happens, do something, like when the left arrow is pressed. And then we have threads. We have things that we can run simultaneously that all happen and work together. Coordination, synchronization, random numbers, Boolean logic. This is and, ors, nots, trues, and falses. Dynamic interaction. There's a few commands here. And the user interface design. What does it look like on the screen? So this is just a brief overview with a couple pages of terms for you. Try and get an understanding of this as best you can and ask questions to your instructor. Next, let's look at the second document. This is a little bit longer, a little more in depth. This is a PDF of a PowerPoint. I'm going to go ahead and launch it here for you real quick. I don't have time to do a voiceover for you, but you do need to take notes on this PowerPoint. Once again, you're going to extend your learning and your vocabulary. You know, it goes all the way back to what is the concept of programming and why do you want to learn how to do it. New tools, talks about Scratch and how it's a simplified version of a product to do programming. Anyone can use it. What are statements? Statements are a very important concept as they are a direct command to the computer to do something. Booleans, I mentioned that a minute ago. It's true or false, and what happens when things are true or false. It can also be when an action is taken, such as a mouse button is down. And there's some other things that you're going to learn about as we go through here. What is a condition? And what happens when it evaluates to true versus false? And so we start looking at this, and the if construct is if this is true, do this. However, if something is false, you need an else. An else basically gives you an option to do something when it's not true. So when the mouse button is down, say hello. If it's not down, you're going to say goodbye. So this is a true-false condition, whereas this is a true-only process, if you look at the top definition. Constructs are basically instruct a sprite to do something. Loops, this tells something how many times to run, as in a repeat statement, or things that need to execute. The computer's just going to keep doing it whenever it needs to. We'll use forever loops a lot in Scratch. A lot of times that's the solution to the problem when you're trying to do something. It's because it only ran once and it needs to be triggered on a forever concept. And so we'll learn more about that as we go through. Last but not least, This is just a fun little exercise you can do as a kind of a introductory lesson as well, and see what happens with it. So take some notes on this presentation, and then let's move on. I'll explain how to do your lessons this week. So this week there's 4 simple Scratch labs, 1 per day. Read the instructions to the lab, download the starter file, upload it to Scratch, and then complete the lab. So you're going to have to take a starter file, put it on your computer, open Scratch, and upload it to Scratch as a starter file, and it will provide you with certain sprites and maybe some starter codes depending on what the lab is. After completing the lab, save the file to your computer, and then you're going to upload the file within the daily assignment. And so the way you complete an assignment is you turn in the actual Scratch file, which will have a file extension of .sb3. So here's your first lab. It's called Scratch Basics, and the basic lab instructions are here. If you want to download them, you click on the link. If you want to view them here, you can click on the magnifying glass. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead. Here's how you do a download. I would hope most of you know how to do this from your time on computers, but let's go through it. You're going to download this basics.sb2. It's actually fully compatible with the Scratch online Scratch version, which is going to then create an sb3 file. Don't get confused by that. Just realize it was a version change and they're compatible. So you're going to download it to your PC, upload it to Scratch, and we're going to do a lot of that. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to save it out to a certain folder for Pre-APCS. Remember, I asked you guys to make a folder for Pre-APCS last week. I'm going to save the basics file in my Scratch folder. And now I need to know what are the instructions, but some of your exercises have a brief one. Brief instructions already written. Write a program in Scratch that will make a sprite, change its costume, and say. So it's going to do 2 things. It's going to change costume, and it's going to issue a say command each time the green flag is clicked. And so your trigger is the green flag. That's your control condition. Use the bug provided or choose any sprite. I'm not hung up on what sprite you use, although the labs, when you load them, will have a specific sprite. So if you don't like the bug, you could change out the bug. Make sure it has multiple costumes though. And then there's a step 1, step 2, step 3, and what I'm asking for today is to look for another sprite with multiple costumes and apply this lesson concept to it, and then submit that file. So after you do basics.sb2, swap out the sprite or write a new program with a new sprite and submit that one to me. And that way, when you submit these in Canvas, I always get them with your name on them. But let's go back to the magnifying glass. Let's see what the lesson looks like. Most of our lessons are going to look in just like this, in this format. It comes from a computer called A+ Computer Science here in Houston. And it's teaching you how to use costumes and how to use the say command. And so it's detailed right here. And this is an example. Here's our bug. He's going to say Scratch Bases, and he's going to change costumes. And in the case of this goofy bug, he either has straight legs or spread legs. I don't know what else to say about that. That's just the way this lesson works. So I'm going to get rid of that. So I'm going to jump over to Scratch. You go to your Create area, File, Load from your computer. Find your Pre-AP, find your basics file. I'm going to add it to the current project, and notice it gave me my Scratch bug. And if I look at my costumes, my bug has 2 costumes, so I'm going to learn how to switch costumes. But I'm going to come over here to the code, and I'm going to have to refer back to my instructions. What did my instructions tell me to do? And so here's where I have to go set up a control for the green flag. Go to the looks, and when the green flag is clicked, then do the second command, and then go to the looks and change your costume for when the green flag is clicked. So you're going to add in several lines of code that do different things. One will be assay, the other one will be changing costume. And so after you get that done, you're going to file, I believe you do, save to your computer down here at the bottom. You're going to save it in your Scratch folder, and I'm just going to change the name to Basics 2 because I have multiple copies on my computer. You can just call it Basics for today, or you can change its name slightly, but it's the file you're going to submit and turn in. So now when I save this file, it's on my computer. I can see it in the bar at the bottom of my screen. Come back to the assignment, click on Submit. It lets me choose the file to upload. I'm going to go out here to my Scratch folder, get my basics2.sb3 open, and notice the file is now listed right here on the screen, and I'm going to submit the assignment. And that's how you submit your assignments on a daily basis. You can come back to these instructions at any time. We're going to leave this as a live video for your access, and I look forward to receiving a bunch of great Scratch projects over the next several weeks. So thanks for paying attention. If you didn't get it, go back, watch the video again. All the instructions are right here. Have a good day, get your projects done, and win the day.